Good.
All right, since it's 6 o'clock, I'll now call the meeting to order. Before we start, I did want to ask the board to start thinking about who we'd like to have in the vice president role, since that is now vacant, and we can vote on that at our next meeting. Typically, we would do the approval of the park board minutes, but last month we didn't have a quorum, so we do not have meeting minutes to approve. So we'll move on to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda that need to be made? All right, hearing no amendments, we will move on to the department reports. We'll have Diana speak as park superintendent, and Stephen won't be here since the pool is closed, and he was here to give her his final kind of information last month.
Okay, just realized I typed this in the morning. I'm not the same person now as I was this morning. Budget for the Parks Department for 2026 has been reduced by $167,319. Some of the line items that have been eliminated are park events, which is the concerts, repair building, playground equipment, and motor equipment. Other line items have been reduced also. I spoke with the mayor regarding money for the concerts next year. He is going to have to get some sponsors so we can continue on with that. I also was approached by Main Street Association. They would like to kind of collaborate with our concerts. I haven't got the details, haven't worked anything out, so I don't know if it'd be some up there, some at the park, how that would work out yet. But once I meet with them, and I'll talk to the mayor to find out which way he wants to handle that. We've had several incidents of vandalism in the bathrooms, both the park and South Street, as usual. I have seen the boys go into the bathroom, can't prove who it is, obviously. I've notified the police, requested the bathrooms be closed early rather than late. That's really not resolved the issue. So I have closed the South Street bathrooms permanently because they're ripping stuff off the wall and causing us a lot of money each week. But with the weather getting cold, I would say the next 2 weeks we'll have the water turned off and the bathrooms will be closed anyway. So I think we'll be right there. New piece of playground equipment should arrive in the next few weeks and be installed. It will replace the monkey barrel that we have at the park. I couldn't get any contractors to touch it for liability reasons. So I think the kids will like the piece we got. The monkey barrel will be removed by street department crew.
And what's the piece like, the new piece of equipment?
It's got a base that goes around and then you also climb up on it. So and it's ADA compliant.
Okay,
So,
great.
When is that happening? Sorry. Oh, in the next few
we've already
weeks.
got one part of it, so I'm assuming the rest of it should be coming anytime. Okay, I was approached by a member of the board wanting to know on if we get approved for the bond and if we go ahead with the pavement of the asphalt for the drives and the parking lots, what I would want out of it, the list that Katie got us. And even though I would like to do things in the park, I really think the pool house needs addressed if we have enough money to work on that. I do have to get another bid. Well, Dylan's hooked me up for one bid, but I had gotten Bumgarner's bid prior. They had included the drive to the baseball diamond. We won't need that, so they're reviewing that and should be sending another bid on that. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, updates on the
Splash
floor.
pad.
So, towards the end of the splash pad season, the pit that the motor and pump sit in flooded overnight. And so when Stephen came in, he drained that and was able to use that pump. However, it was making horrible noise. So we called a mechanic. He's gonna work on it. Right now, it looks like it's around $2,000. Gonna rebuild it. So we're waiting to get a total estimate on that. And there's an electric outlet that's actually not submerged, it's in the pump pit. So I'm gonna have that moved up higher, so if that was to happen again, it would be an electrical issue.
And did that flood because of rain or because of the
It
splash
was a
pad?
malfunction on, I don't know, one of the other I don't know my verbiage for that stuff yet. I've just
Yeah.
paid the bills. It's just a malfunction and it flooded. Do we want to go over any of the ADA things that we reviewed last year as far as what we've done, what we need to do for the 5-year plan, or do you want to do that till next meeting?
Maybe we'll do that next meeting.
Okay.
Since we have a more than
schedule.
usual on
Okay.
this one. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Perfect.
Any questions?
I don't think so.
The shelter house, there was like a net or something that was gonna go up in there?
Pavilion?
Bird, yeah. so-
No, we ended up having construction done and closing all the open areas up above, so no birds can go behind and nest, and no four-legged creatures can go behind and have babies.
Good.
So it has cut way down on the bird issue. They will still land in there, but, yeah, I did look up the cost for that. The netting was expensive, and we would have to purchase the netting and then find a contractor to hang it, and I didn't have any luck with that. So I went this route.
Okay.
Anything
All
else?
I think so.
Okay,
Thank you, Diana. All right, next is the baseball project update.
Yeah, quick update today. So over the last several weeks, I would say we've been interfacing a lot with DNR. The property itself sits in the floodplain here in the city of Tipton. So what we've got to do is get a permit issued by DNR to build in the floodplain, understanding the expectations from them. In that conversation, we discussed DNR has essentially 2 permitting processes. There's a modeling process, which would require us to, I assume, the terminology here is to model where the displacement of water is going to take place because of the construction, and there's a non-modeling process. One is a lot more time intensive, expensive, the other one not. So we have been successful in getting their permission to go through the non-modeling. There are some expectations. We can have a structure within the project area that's greater than 400 square feet, and that's total square footage. So we can't have 2 400 square feet, 2-story building. That's a total square footage that we can have for the structures, but we're not limited on the number of structures. So currently at this process with that information from DNR 2 weeks ago, we're now working on that application permit for DNR. We've gone through some design iterations and selected design that closely mirrors what was previously the orientation of the fields and such. There's other reasons for that because of the limitations of the floodplain. We had to find an image of the space from previous 1970s or earlier, which helped define the project area. And that allowed us to get permission to go through this non-modeling process. So currently working to confirm the site schematic and then the architecture, the materials that we plan to use. And so working through the project team to get all that confirmed. So we're on a 2-week meeting cadence right now. I think Holly's still of course, having a baby's gotten the way it goes, but Holly has been serving as our park board liaison to that. We're only just now starting some of those more intensive conversations. So we're hoping to get permit application turned in the next 30 days. The unfortunate piece of this is DNR could take 60 to 90 days to review and approve a permit. So we're sort of at their mercy on that part of it. It's not a process that we can speed up, but we have some confidence that this is a project that's going to take a long time to construct. So we're still trying to move this forward as aggressively as possible to get baseball back in the city of Tipton. Any questions for me?
With the rebuild, I know there's flooding issues in different parts of the different fields.
Mhm.
Will we be able to correct that, or is DNR not wanting
We've actually spent a lot of time as a team in this last call discussing that. So we don't have any comments we can install any tiling, as we previously discussed, to try to mitigate that. So what we'll try to do is grade the fields in such a way that it sheds the water more efficiently rather than pooling it. So there'll be some concentration. We don't want to displace too much dirt when we get into all these complicated calculations related to DNR. But if we can move the earth in a way that helps it shed so that it doesn't stand, that's kind of the strategy we're going with at the moment.
Okay. All right. Any other
So does
questions?
it still look like it'll be ready to go next spring?
We're still operating aggressively toward that timeline.
Do we have a plan B if it's not?
So what we don't know, some of this is, if we can get the application turned into DNR, they take 90 days. We expect to get then a permit, worst case scenario, by February, so we can break ground in March. The plan B will be to focus on the fields and at least get a peewee field constructed, because they're the only age group who can't travel for play. So that's come through some influence of the baseball group and individuals to focus on the peewee side of things. And so that would be a plan B. If we can't get the thing constructed the way we want it for spring play, then we'll focus on the fields. The supportive amenities won't be there. We'll probably a temporary concession trailer, a temporary restroom trailer come in to support the other aspects, but that would be sort of the plan B.
And are is Ellie in the fields? Is that where they're at? Are they available if needed, or is that?
Yes,
still
with
kind of-
the asterisks, of course, they're
Yeah.
currently for sale. The
Mhm.
town of Atlanta no longer wants to own the property. They originally didn't construct them, so I think they were given the property several years back. So I think they find themselves at a time that they don't want to own them any longer.
Yeah.
So the door remains open that if they haven't sold, then I've been told they're interested in renewing a lease, but the threat continues that they could sell.
Yeah.
And no longer be available.
Are the plans and specs finalized for the baseball fields?
No, I think from a conceptual layout they are. In fact, we'll probably have a video update to the community sometime this week. It might be tomorrow, in fact. There's going to be a brief illustration shown.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows the 350-foot field, a 200-foot field, and a 120-foot field to support the age groups that play
3
ball.
total.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we feel pretty confident the layout that's illustrated is what the layout's going to be. Where the buildings exist, and are there going to be 2 or 3, or is there going to be a playground area? Some of those little
Mhm.
details we don't quite know completely yet, but from a schematic view, we have confidence that that's probably what's going to get built.
Cool.
As Diana mentioned, there's going to be that drive. We'll rebuild that drive area into there, so that'll be part of the project cost and some additional parking.
And the Babe Ruth field, is it going to be convertible into?
Yes, good question. So both, I believe the 200-foot and the 350-foot will have movable bases to support. So if Pee-wee for some reason had a rain delay or even canceled games, they could play on more fields than just the Pee-wee field, because they could move the bases to accommodate that age group. So yeah, that's a good question. That's where we see the most participations at the Pee-wee age. So they'll need more access and more fields to support that.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to resolutions and ordinances.
Good evening. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Steve Unger. I'm an attorney at Bose McKinney & Evans, and I've worked with the city for years on various projects. One of my partners, Dennis Otten, is bond counsel for the city. He couldn't be here tonight, so I kind of know enough to be dangerous and that I can cover these meetings. Dennis is the one that prepares all the documents. Justin is here as well from Reed Financial, and they do the numbers, so he can kind of help explain the numbers. But I'll kind of start with 30,000 feet, what we're doing and how we get here. So we work with a lot of communities, both of us do, all over the state. And this time of the year, one of the things that communities do is look at what their bonding capacity is and the methods that we can issue debt, the cities can issue debt to be able to do capital projects. It's something that we kind of do always at the end of the year. Last year, we did it with the city and recognized an opportunity to be able to issue debt through a complicated lease financing structure using the RDC to be able to get funds to do the baseball field project. And so in looking at the opportunities again for the city this year, working with the mayor, there were a couple of things that were identified. There's opportunity to be able to, for the city to issue debt and do it in such a way that, and Justin will go through this, the levy or the total debt amount that the city has stays level compared to what it was last year. So we keep the debt levy, or the debt payments level, and we're still able to issue new debt and do some projects and we identified kind of two categories of things. One was some road projects for economic development. And so we met earlier tonight with the Redevelopment Commission, and they're issuing about $1.4 million in debt. We're starting the process. We're trying to run these parallel and do it all together to kind of keep the cost down instead of doing two separate things. But so we're going through the process with them of issuing about $1.4 million of debt. And then the second part of it is about $750,000 of debt to be able to do some parks projects. And so we need to run that through the Parks Board to be able to do that. The process is tonight it's a little bit different, but similar, but there's we are going to adopt or ask you to adopt a declaratory resolution declaring that you want to go forward with the projects. And then we will come back and that the projects benefit the public, they're necessary, those types of things. Then we're going to hold a public hearing. So we want to get that date set, which I think we're looking at ideally October 27th, because that's when RDC is going to meet and the council is going to meet, and then we can just come to one meeting or be here one night. At that meeting, then we will hold a public hearing, actually 3 public hearings, but we'll do it in one over the bonds, over the project, and over the appropriation, the actual appropriation of the bond proceeds. And then after that, we can adopt a confirmatory resolution, we can adopt the bond resolution, and we can adopt a resolution appropriating it. In the interim, the council also has to approve this, the city council does. And so we'll be at the council meeting in October 13th, and I'd be asking for their approval on this as well. So you guys can issue debt, but it has to be approved by the council in order to do that. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Justin, I know, has numbers on the details, if you guys of how the financing and the numbers work and how they get to it, but that's in a nutshell what we're accomplishing.
All right.
I can hand these out to you guys so you guys can take a look and just follow along with what I'm talking. I'll reference the numbers because they'll all be in here, and because this is the Park District's first one, I'll sort of go from the beginning, really. So when we work with the mayor, I've actually worked with the mayor in previous bonds as well. And when we worked with the mayor for this bond, initially it was going to be one bond, but because of limitations with SB1 and the state has what we call a constitutional debt limit. If you look at page 4, you will see the constitutional debt limit right there. So the city has their own constitutional debt limit, the RD has their own, and the Park District, you all have your own constitutional debt limit. Like Steve mentioned earlier, the RD is already issuing a $1.4 million bond. The Park District is also issuing about $700,000. That's totals to over $2 million. But if you see near the middle of that page, you see remaining constitutional debt limit either for the Park District or the RD. There is not enough debt limit, even with no debt currently outstanding for the Park District, to issue a bond of that size. So that's why we sort of have to split it out between the two districts or two authorities. So for the RD, that's a $1.3 million bond. That's on the road project. For the Park District, is going to be a trail for about $708,000. I say about because cost of issuances could vary as we move closer towards closing. If we look at page 5, this is where Steve was referencing the level debt levy. And what that means is, like Steve mentioned, it's just whatever the city has to pay each year in bond payments, that's principal and interest, make that the same. So, last year the city had $1 million in payment. Next year, we're now looking at a $3 million payment. We try to keep that the same so we can effectively plan, because this doesn't just affect the debt funds, it'll affect the city's general fund and other funds as well. So that's why what we actually do is keep the debt rate level. But because of Senate Bill 1, we expect AVs to potentially decrease in the future. Keeping the debt rate levels pretty difficult. So we changed our approach to keep the debt levy level. So if you look about 1/3 down, you'll see that $699,670. You'll see that's the same from 2025 to 2030. And that's the debt levy for all of the city's bonds, including the park bond and the RD bond. And the park bond is actually included within the third orangey yellow line. If you see for 2026, that's $229,000. That's not all park. That's a combination of park and the RD. We just put it together because initially this was planned to be a single bond. So when we're doing this now, so we want to do an apple to apple comparison, and we're looking at levy and rates. So at the very bottom, you'll see another yellow line there. That will be the park district's debt rate. You see that 0.0304. That will be the park district's debt rate in 2024, and that's expected to. It'll drop a little bit in 2027. That's because the way we size the bonds, we have it front loaded in the very first year, just to again keep that levy level. We front load a lot of it in 2026. That's why you see that drop. And then we will work with the mayor, work with the city to identify potential other projects that we could potentially bond for going into the future. So that's that's the overview of the bonds and how that plays into not just the park, but also all of the city's operations as well. The rest of the pages really, they're just the debt fund, the analysis of the debt funds and amortizations. We don't really need to look into that unless you'd like us to. And these are all very preliminary numbers. For example, we're using 4.25% as our interest rate. That's likely, I say likely, don't quote me, likely high. But we like just be conservative in case it comes up a little bit higher. We can have room to play with principal. So
Is that based off an index?
the
Interest rate?
interest rate. So we're working with Baird. They're an underwriting firm. They work a lot in Indiana, I believe, Ohio, and Kentucky as well. We work with them and they sort of tell us what the rates are, and there are publicly available information on. There's a municipal bonds website that we use. So they provide, AAA bonds, maybe 3.5. We'll just bump that up to 4. Maybe a little higher. That's how we do it. And then Stifel, when they go to sell these bonds, they'll tell us what the actual rates are.
Yeah, they'll go find a buyer
Yeah.
for the bonds, and then and that would be what dictates the rate.
Okay.
And sometimes they're big. They even buy the bonds themselves if they can't find a buyer, and they guarantee the rate is. So that just as you kind of get closer, you start to fine tune the numbers, and then they'll say this is the rate we basically think we'll get, and we'll buy them even if we can't sell them on the. But
Okay.
they'll give us.
Do you know if there's like a standard margin that they add, or I guess how do they figure the rate?
There is I wouldn't say standard, but there's an estimate that we
Okay.
use. I think it's par amount, divided by 1,000 times 5. That's
Okay.
usually, I believe that's what we've used in the past. That's not what this is built from, but it really depends on the bonds and the market. During a higher interest rate market, there'll be more margin, whereas in 2020 to 2021, they were basically making tiny margins because
Right.
I don't know 1.5% interest rate debt. How much could they get out of it, right? So it depends on what market we're looking at in terms of bonds.
All right. Do you have any questions? All right. Thank you.
So what we would need you guys to do tonight is adopt the declaratory resolution, which I think is resolution 2025-02.
All right. Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-02.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. And the motion carries. Oh. I don't think we voted yet. So we all just,
All in favor?
oh, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
And then if we'll go ahead, we'll want to have the minutes reflect that we introduced the bond resolution, which I'm going to go ahead and it says 2025-03.
Okay.
Is that okay? So we can show that we introduced that, and then and then also the appropriation resolution. And we'll just go ahead and call that 2025-04. Is that okay? And then the only other item that I have is to confirm, make sure everybody can go ahead and confirm the time and date, which I believe I've been told is October 27th at 4 o'clock. Sorry,
It's my birthday, but I'll be here.
4 o'clock. As long as we have a
Bring
quorum.
cake for that.
That's right. Happy birthday.
So I want to make sure I got these labeled. The first one was 20, I don't want to pronounce that, but
Declaratory.
thank you.
Yes.
2025-02 is that one?
Yes.
So in the minutes, you need that to say that if that motion passed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we introduced 03.
2025-03.
Oh, okay.
Resolution is 03 and the introduction of appropriation resolutions 04.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the other discussion, did we need to talk about the funds or is that for
Well, I think I'm
later?
gonna address that actually.
Okay, perfect.
To get a little guidance on the process from here on out. So I've given you some example projects the city could pursue with these funds. One of, I think, the priorities is the paving of, mill and resurface of the drive around the park, but then upgrading the parking lots from gravel to asphalt. Not only does this help us address a slew of ADA challenges we have at the park, but this is likely one of those improvements that we'll never find grant funding for. Nobody wants to pay or provide grant funds for parking lots and driveways. There's estimated at this point remaining funds left over. Is the question I would pose to this group and other stakeholders that we might want to engage is, okay, with the remaining funds, what other priorities do we want to address? So the process that we're going to pursue to help us scope that, really sort of dream or to identify what that next step is, the city will release a request for proposal for a build, operate, and transfer relationship with a professional. That individual will then get contracted by the city of Tipton. The expectation is during the scoping phase, there isn't going to be a fee associated to get these projects scoped or identified. Then they can help us to identify what are those project budget funds. So we understand, do we have enough money to pay for those various improvements? Or can we do more than one, from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3? So we're really trying to provide the autonomy to this group and then other stakeholders to identify those, but there'll be some professionals on the back end to help guide the conversation, engage with the other stakeholders, even doing potential community outreach. Again, that's all we decided here later, but that support will be there when we get done at the end of this process of securing the bond. So that's sort of what I want to at least address is currently today we have a list of projects that we could pursue. We can't pursue all of them. Some of them, actually most of them are quite expensive. So it will require some prioritization, but I think our focus at this point with the impacts of SEA 1 is, from a parks perspective, how do we continue to build a quality of life, to provide and build a community that we want to live in? Because if we want to live here, so do other people. So I think that's kind of the focus that we want to pursue this with, addressing ADA concerns first, and then how we build a great park system. So it's just sort of generalized how we'll pursue it moving forward.
And we're assuming that this is gonna be a next spring project, summer project.
Yeah, so it's still governed in the same 3-year.
Yeah.
So about 3 years to spend the monies. Our goal is to spend them a lot quicker than that. So as we've, and sort of using baseball as an example, we sort of did the baseball project out of order, so this was our first one that we do with the right timeline. We're going to secure the money first with an understanding of what those projects could be, and then move it on to, okay, what is the vision now? What are the projects? So I would like to see this group become very active in pursuing that vision to then execute them next year. Certainly, we believe the paving could happen next year. And just based on Diane's work already in the park, one of those examples is playground equipment. Pickleball could take a little bit more runway. There's some opportunities with grant funding for a skate park, for example, that would require some public engagement. So that could need more runway. But we have 3 years. So I'd rather us take our time and vet the ideas completely so we have support behind it and then execute the project in its entirety. No false starts.
Sounds great.
Yes. All right. Is there anything else that the board would like to discuss?
I don't think so.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
All right. I need to do the all in favor for joining too. All in favor.
All in favor. Aye.
The 1%. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Well, originally.
Sadie, are you taking notes?
I am. Yes.
We have situations where people are not spending.
I can